I am a big believer in not having diluted communication. And that's part of why I dislike Slack, because I find people trying to have communication via chat that really needs to be discussed in actual, over a phone call or a video chat with a clear decision, a clear outcome. We're very structured in our communication.
This is Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, your go-to guide to solving your biggest marketing agency challenges authentically. I'm your host, Mike Allton, and each episode is an honest and frank look at what agencies go through, from churning clients to tackling tech and ideas that you can apply to your own business. And now, the rest of today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, where every week we're talking to marketing agencies like you, going through many of the same struggles you're going through and sharing their stories. Subscribe to find in each episode inspiration, motivation, and the perspiration that goes into growing and scaling agencies like yours. Now, whether you've intended to build a fully remote agency or that's your goal, managing remote employees has its own challenges and opportunities. To say nothing of being remote yourself as an agency owner. How do you line up clients? How do you ensure communication within your team? How do you even juggle time and time zones? That's exactly what Anne Popolizio is going to talk to us about. Anne is the owner of the digital marketing agency Social Squib, a fully remote digital marketing agency. Her goal is to not only build a remote agency, but to be a geographically independent agency owner herself, which she's accomplished. She's been doing social media for businesses since 2010 and knows how to leverage their social media following into clients. And she's obsessed with analytics so that clients can measure the results of their efforts. Hey, Anne, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me, Mike.
So glad to have you. So glad to have these conversations with you. We've gotten to talk a number of times during summits and that sort of thing. It's always a pleasure. But can you start by telling us a little bit more about how you started or even why you started Social Squib and the kind of work you're doing today?
Yeah. So a big part of the motivation was that I needed at the time to be geographically independent. And I had a friend that had started a virtual assistant company, and I talked to her a little bit, and she had a degree in marketing. And she was like, oh, we were talking about the things that I knew how to do, things that I was doing in my current job. And at the time I was the director of a sailing school, and I was responsible for all of their marketing. And we'd had 30% growth in programming revenue 2 years in a row. So I knew that I wasn't terrible at it. And I was talking to her, and she has this degree in marketing. And I'm telling her, I'm like, well, this is what I do. We're doing social media, we're running ads, I'm running the banner over PCH. I'm going to the kids' camps. I'm collecting email addresses. I'm sending email marketing. This is everything that we're doing. And she was like, I wouldn't touch social media with a 10-foot pole. I know nothing about it. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of good at it. So I very quickly ditched the virtual assistant idea and was like, the sky's the limit. If I go the agency route, the sky is the limit. So I started Social Squib the following year. And I had left LA. I had packed up everything I owned, sold most of my furniture. I think I had 3 boxes of stuff, what fit into my car. And I think I shipped 2 boxes. And then everything else is what fit into my car, my cute little Nissan Versa. And then I drove across the country, dumped a bunch of stuff at my mom's house, and then proceeded to start traveling full time that was 2016. And that's why we started it. And then I went from there. I mean, I had the initial idea. I was like, I was going to be like an outsourced marketing director, maybe have 3 clients. And I ended up learning how to do paid social correctly. And the next thing I knew, the only thing anyone wanted to talk to me about was paid social. And so we became a primarily paid social agency. And then as the team has expanded, we have grown, and we're close to full service. We do the full lead generation funnel. We do organic social media, email marketing, et cetera. The only things we don't do are SEO and full website development.
Got it. And in fact, I'll put these links in the show notes because one of the things I've talked to you in the past about is your paid social. You've done sessions for me because you are a genius when it comes to paid social. I bow to your wisdom there. That is not my gig at all. So for those who want to learn more about what Anne does and some of the things that she teaches, I'll put those links. But your agency is 100% remote, and more importantly, you mentioned you're geographically independent. What does that even mean? And what have
Mhm.
some of the benefits been to you over the
Mhm.
years?
Mhm. It means that I don't have to be in any one place at any particular time, which also means that I can be wherever I want to be, whenever I want to be there. So for me, that means that I spend about half the year in the south of France. I maximize my 90 out of 180 days and within the Schengen territory. And then I spend the rest of the time typically in the States. I will usually do a month or two in California, the rest of the time in New Jersey. I do try to do a discovery place every year. So I did a month in Mexico. I did 2 months in Croatia. I did a month in the Bahamas. And then, so wash, rinse, repeat.
And you're near Nice now, is that right?
Correct. I'm in Nice. Yeah. I have an
You're in
apartment
Nice,
in Nice.
and
In Nice. Yeah.
that's amazing. And I didn't know about the
Mhm.
discovery part. I recalled you telling me about like Puerto Vallarta and other
Yeah.
places like that, but I didn't
Mhm.
realize that was a strategic this month out of the year. This is where I'm going to go.
Yeah, I mean, where that month falls changes. I kind of find myself with a gap, and I'll strategically choose a place. And the last big discovery place I did was Puerto Vallarta, and that was pretty amazing. And I absolutely fell in love with that place. It's an amazing city, and I love it so much.
That's awesome. And can I just say for the record, I'm super jealous. But that kind of arrangement, it's not without its challenges, right? I mean, what are some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome with this model, not just as an employee, but as an agency and an agency owner?
hmm Well, personally for me, so I've always had a remote component to my entire career. I started my career off as an actor, and so going all the way back to that point in time, the biggest hurdle that I had to overcome was how to work without external motivation. And you come out of school and you've always got a deadline, you've always got someone to please, and all of a sudden the work wasn't going to get done unless I did it. So I had to learn very quickly how to do work for myself and accomplish goals for myself. But it's very easy to find yourself, even after I started Social Squib, you can find yourself kind of languishing a little bit. It's really easy to, days can go by and you can look up and be like, oh, I never did that. And so I have built a lot of infrastructure for myself around what I know are my weaknesses. And 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 interestingly enough, I mean, some of that is I need a little bit of external motivation. And so I have structured the business to make sure that Anne has her motivation where she needs it. And that came, one of the earliest things that I did was I implemented weekly meetings with our clients. A lot of agencies only meet with their clients once a month. I needed a weekly meeting. That meeting is not for my clients. That meeting is for me.
Hmm.
The result is that it means that the work keeps progressing. And I think it actually creates a very good rhythm for our clients. It creates a very predictable rhythm for our clients. And so from first idea to campaign build, we have a very consistent process. We do the designs, we write the copy, the client reviews them. Once they approve, then we'll do proofs. And then once they approve the proofs, then we finish the build and we move forward. But I had to build a lot of infrastructure for myself to make sure that I didn't get lost in my own weaknesses, which is I need a good kick in the pants sometimes, and that was how I addressed that particular issue. Another issue that we've had, obviously, is like time zones. Time zones are definitely a challenge, and managing a team remotely. Hiring has been a challenge because trust is a big issue. You have to really trust someone when you're working remotely, and you can't be there to monitor them. You can't see exactly what they're doing. You can't be looking over their shoulder. So that's always a tricky one. I do keep hiring very close to the chest. Strong referrals from people that we already know, people whom I personally have already met. I did do one straight up true, like put a job notice out there and was like, hi, someone, but that person was based in New Jersey, so I was able to meet them in person. And I brought them on very slowly. So I kept them away from client. Typically, I have people start on Social Squib stuff, and then I bring them slowly into client work, or I keep them very much in the background before they start to, be introduced to clients.
So I can tell you've got a lot of self-discipline and a lot of self-awareness. I mean, you were talking about these things that you identified in yourself. A lot of people are like, I never realized that about myself. It's probably true. And you've put those guardrails in place. But
Mhm.
what about some of the other challenges that are just inherent to any kind of remote agency, even if they're all, in the same time zone,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
they're not necessarily in a place where they're all coming to the office, which is
Mhm.
the case with your agency, right? How are you dealing
Mhm.
with things like just team building and teamwork and team communication?
Yeah, that's been a tricky one that I've had to work pretty hard to address, and it's hard because our team is really spread out. It's not like we're all in the same state or even the same time zone. I mean, we spread across the entire country, and so bringing everybody together physically would be, in a lot of ways, prohibitively expensive. So what I've done is I've implemented all team meetings. So we every month the entire team comes together, and it's not that we're not a huge company. We don't have massive things that need to be addressed. I have one-on-ones with every single person every week, sometimes more than once a week. But we started bringing together everybody so that they can meet each other and communicate with each other and and share ideas and brainstorm and just get to know each other, because my big concern is if something happens to me, it's the weak link in the business, right? If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, god forbid, the whole thing falls apart. So I realized last year that I really needed to start addressing that and create more horizontal communication. And so I'm starting to, where possible, start to step out, start to facilitate more horizontal communication. I've got my organic social managers talking directly to the designer rather than things having to funnel through me. So we're trying to reduce that. And then it's tricky. I mean, company culture is a hard one, but at the same time, our company culture is how we live, which is we come together, we do the highest quality work that we can, but we also get to live our lives. That's a major part of our company values, is that this business is created to support life and to support how we live. So I'm okay with maybe we lose a little bit of team building, but we make up for it in the fact that Social Squib facilitates all of us to live our lives the way we want to live our lives.
That's awesome, and I can relate to so much of that. Even working at Agorapulse, we're an agency, we're a
Mhm.
SaaS brand, but we're a hybrid
Right.
company. Half the company
Right.
lives and works in Paris. The other half of the
Right.
company is extreme remote, every corner of the globe. Marketing and sales, in which I work, we're predominantly North America, but all over the place. There's nobody
Mhm.
within 500 miles of me personally that
Mhm.
also works for Agorapulse.
Mhm.
So, one quick tip for those of you listening: Mexico is extremely affordable to go to. We sent our entire sales team. Half of them were in France, but instead of having people meet in Paris, we sent
Mhm.
everybody to Mexico. There was
Interesting.
nobody local to where we were sending them. Yeah, which is contrary to what we've done in the past at Agorapulse.
Mhm.
We used to have annual company-wide retreats
Mhm.
pre-pandemic, and that was
Mhm.
always to the north of France. So everybody would fly to Paris because you
Mm.
figure, well, half the company's already there. Let's just
Mhm.
bring everybody to Paris, rent a few buses, and drive north of there. Now, when we're really crunching the numbers, it's cheaper to just fly everybody to Mexico.
Wow.
You go to an all-inclusive
Wow.
resort for a few nights, everything's
Yeah.
included, and there's no, people don't have to go off-site to get food. Everything's
Mhm.
right there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Emmerich send us on a cruise, right?
Yeah, we get on it. Yeah, I mean, we do try to facilitate. There are two team members that I have never met in person, but other than that, I have met everybody in person, and I do try to have in-person time with all of our clients at least once a year. So, it's my traveling, and then as we can, we bring people together. I had one of my team members was at Social Media Marketing World, and then I brought all the whole organic team tickets for next year because I'm like, I want everybody here. And then like when I go up to Boston for marketing profs, I might take a little detour and see my designer because she's in upstate New York, and so I get to personally see the team, which creates cohesion. So there's definitely a strong
Mhm.
connection between me and the team members, but it again, this year is the year of trying to build more horizontal, because the business can only grow so much if it's always funneling vertically through me.
100%. That's a great takeaway for everybody. listening. Folks, we're talking with Anne Popolizio about building remote teams in your marketing agency and how to overcome some of the issues inherent in that arrangement. Now, to help you overcome some of the other obstacles facing your agency, here's a message from Kim Garst.
I personally love Agorapulse. It's been a life changer in so many ways. One, anytime you have a tool that is kind of a one-stop shop from a management perspective, it's awesome. But some of the things I love about Agorapulse is the ability to tag conversations or to people so that you can follow up with those people and you kind of know who they are. You know, the other thing I love is being able to see all the conversations, previous conversations, specifically in Twitter. And of course, now that you can schedule to Instagram, that's awesome. So I'm super thrilled about that. I have used a lot of different tools, pretty much all of them, over the course of the time that I've been active in social media. And when I first started using Agorapulse and I realized that it had so many of the same functions of some of the other tools, but it went deeper. You know, it gave you more ability to do, things that some of the others just didn't have that capability. So huge fan.
I love that you mentioned Social Media Marketing World in San Diego, because that interview with Kim Garst was literally my first day on the job with
Oh,
the Girl Pulse
wow.
6 years ago. I flew in. I'd obviously been to Social Media Marketing World before, and I'd met Emmerich before, but that was my first day literally working for Agora Pulse. And we had the J29 film crew in Kansas City, and we were filming Kim behind the Marriott Hotel. We had Ian Anderson Gray. We did a clip with myself, and then we had a bunch of other people that we interviewed, including you, throughout that week. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fun.
There is
Yeah.
footage of baby business owner Anne in
Look
the
at
Agora
you,
Pulse archives.
all grown up. So now, for agency owners who are listening, who maybe they're either managing fully remote teams or they're thinking about launching a fully remote team, what advice would you give them?
You have to be very structured. You have to be very structured in your communication. I am very anti-Slack, for example. We have regularly scheduled short meetings with the team. Each team member, at a minimum, I meet with them once a week, depending on how much work they do for us. Some team members I meet with twice a week. And then obviously there's communication in between if needed. We do everything through Airtable. So I am a big believer in not having diluted communication. And that's part of why I dislike Slack, because I find people trying to have communication via chat that really needs to be discussed in actual, over a phone call or a video chat with a clear decision and clear outcome. And then if I give something to the team member, it goes into Airtable. The whole communication thread is in Airtable. Oftentimes, and clients are like, they send an email or they'll send a Slack message and they'll be like, we want to talk about this, or what do you think about this? I'm like, I've added this to our call agenda. So we eat, sleep, and breathe by call agendas. We eat, sleep, and breathe by Airtable. And we're very structured in our communication. And that's how things don't get lost. And that's how we keep our project management going. The other thing that I personally do, I have a very strong routine to start my day. So I will take the first anywhere from typically 15 to 40 minutes of my day, and I will review everything that was on my list from yesterday. And then I check off what got done. And then I transfer the new stuff that came into my master to-do list. And then I identify what are the things that I'm personally going to get done for today. I have an accountability buddy. We just celebrated, I think, 12 years. And so she and I, and we email every single day. So every single day we send an email to each other. So I know exactly what I did, what I have planned for the day. And I take that time. So that's how I'm able to, as I go through the day with meetings with clients and things, I don't try to get things into Airtable in real time. I write it down in my notebook, which is always sitting right next to me. And then in the next morning, it will get transferred to the big list. And then if it needs to get delegated to one of the team members, that'll go into Airtable. So I have a very strong routine to start my day. And that's how I ensure that things don't get missed. And then, I have my meetings, my one-on-ones with my team members, and we review the Airtable, and, we have statuses for everything that I give them. So we're very, very organized in that regard. So yeah, communication, organization, but then you also have to create room for the water cooler. Like you need water cooler time. And I'm not good at the water cooler stuff. I'm not good at small talk. I'm not good at the chit chat. I'm like, I'm the kind of person where I'll write the email and then I have to revise it 3 times so I don't sound like a jerk when I send it. How are you? Hello. Like I have to remind myself to put those things into an email. But I do try to make a concerted effort to have a little bit of water cooler time in meetings, check in with my team members, ask them how they're doing. How was your weekend? And same with clients. I have a little bit of water cooler time at the beginning just to give a little bit of a check-in, and then we'll dive into the agenda.
Well, I was gonna say, I think that's one of the reasons why you and I get along so well is that we don't really require that water cooler time. It's been weeks, months since the last time you and I spoke to each other in person, and we just jump right in, and half the time it's straight into some other marketing topic, whether it's personal or professional or whatever the case might be. And I feel blessed I've gotten to spend a lot of time with you, and we've done some fun things. But yeah, we don't have to muddy the waters with a lot of that personal chit chat. And I really liked the way that you've got your day organized, because I feel very similar. The tool's a little bit different. We use Asana instead of Airtable. I'm a very digital guy. So even though I have a physical notebook, that's like my emergency if I've got to write something down right now, my to-do list everything is in a Evernote note. So I'll have that next to me. And it's a duplicate of what I have in Asana, but Asana is a little busy. And, I don't want to have to poke around in different projects where here I just have, this is it. This is what I've got to accomplish today. And it's a long list, so it's more than just today, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah. So I have the digital version is the master list, and then what's put down into the notebook is just what I realistically can do today. Yeah. And I have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks and notebooks and notebooks. But that's how I buy souvenirs on my travels. I go to a museum and I buy pretty notebooks. So right now, my notebook is the Mona Lisa, which I got at the Louvre.
Very nice.
That's how I get tax deductible souvenirs.
That's awesome. Our AgoraPulse offices, we moved recently, but they were just across the street from the Louvre. It used to be this wonderful, just a walk down Rue de Rivoli. But I want to take it back to something a little off topic, but you were talking about how your agency does almost everything except for SEO and web. So you do organic social media. And one of the common threads and topics on this show is the challenge agencies have to actually demonstrate the value of organic social media to their clients. Paid is easy from a demonstration perspective. You've got the reports, right? I mean, it's not necessarily easy to achieve results, but when you do, the reports are right there. We did it. Organic, how are you measuring the business impact of social media?
So I would say they're very similar. I think I would say it's a misconception that that tracking and reporting for paid versus organic is actually all that different.
That's okay. You can come on my show and contradict me. That's fine.
I'm gonna push back there. Here's the thing, right? So yes, within Ads Manager, for example, so if we're running Facebook ads, within Ads Manager, I can get event tracking set up on my website, and that can send my information. Sentences here. I can get the event conversion information right next to my campaign information. Yes, that is true within Ads Manager. And I don't have that organically. I'm not going to get the event firing back to my organic. But it is very possible to get all of this information in one place, and that's through Google Analytics. And that's actually what we use primarily to measure the effectiveness of our report, of our campaigns, paid or organic. Especially with the iOS 14.5 changes that came into play 2 years ago now. There was attribution loss, and Facebook's information was reduced, and so we switched over. Prior to iOS 14.5, we did use Ads Manager as our primary reporting source for conversion measurement. After iOS 14.5, we just switched over to Google Analytics. So the report I pay attention to most is what's in Google Analytics. And we use Looker Studio to build out dashboards for all of our clients. And so we can see we can see organic and paid conversion rates right next to each other in Looker Studio, pulling in via the Google Analytics data. And we use UTMs on our paid social, just as we use UTMs on our organic social. So, we are AgoraPulse clients, and so it automatically tags with the source and the medium, so we know if a link came from organic social media. Not that there's a ton of links going out within the confines of a post, but when there is, that link is automatically tagged, and then if that person does convert, then we can see that. The other piece of behavior that we've discovered is that a lot of people go, even if there was a link, they whether they're coming in via organic or they're coming in via paid, and I don't quite have the data around this to prove this, but this is a strong suspicion because I know where the volume of impressions is coming from. But a lot of the organic traffic comes from the profile link. And so we have our profile links tagged as profile link. And so I can see when people are coming specifically from the profile link. And then if you have campaign tagged, I can see the campaign data. So I've got organic and paid social tagged properly. So that all pulls into Looker Studio. And then certainly on every paid ad, we have the campaign. So I immediately get the paid campaign breakdown, and I get the leads that got generated from those campaigns right there in the Looker Studio report. So that's the short, the long version to the answer to your question is we use Looker Studio and Google Analytics.
No, that's a great answer. And I think the key takeaway there is to make sure that every single link that you're sharing, whether it's paid or social or paid or organic, is tracked with
Correct.
UTM parameters. So like you said, if those of you listening, if you're using AgoraPulse, we'll track that automatically for you.
Yeah.
We'll even integrate that Google Analytics data and surface that in a nice report. So
Mhm.
you'll be able to see any traffic that you sent from any individual post.
Mhm.
Did it go to the website? Did that person do something? We'll bring that back. We're actually integrating, we're releasing very soon a connector to Looker Studio directly. And we'll have some training very soon. Yeah. That's coming soon in May. So actually, by the time you're all listening to this podcast, that integration, that connector is probably out. Don't quote me on that, but it's coming soon. And we'll have some training available soon as well, because I'll be the first to admit, I've been using Google Analytics for over a decade. I don't get GA4. That's been a real struggle for mine. I haven't a lot of time, I'll admit, to put into it, but it's so different from Universal, to me at least, in the way that I think and approach things. I've struggled to look around and find out where, even from my own personal sites, how do I know what's working or not? So we've got some training coming out very soon about that. But one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and because like you said, you've been doing this for a while, you've worked with many clients, and I know, I'm sure not all the clients that you've worked with have been angels. I'm sure some of them probably a little less than angels. What shouldn't clients do if they want to work with Anne Popolizio and they want to get one of the best paid social gurus that they can possibly get? What would get them fired? And can you share an example?
Throwing a temper tantrum. That will get you fired. And it has.
Oh my.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, basically, if you treat us poorly, you're out. We're all on the same team. You are 1,000% allowed to have feedback. You are 1,000% allowed to not like what I presented to you. You're gonna be like, nope, this does not work for me. What you don't get to do is scream at me that this is crap. That doesn't work. You're out. If you say this doesn't work for me, I'm not a fan of this, that's fine. But if you do not treat us well, if you scream at us, you're done.
Good advice. Yeah. I hope the reason I ask these questions is not because we're talking to your target clients, but because we're talking to other agency owners. And I hope those of you listening, what you take away from that is that you don't have to put up with that kind of behavior, because some people think that that's okay, and they need to know that it's not okay. And they need to know that they can't just go from one agency to another one, treating them horribly. So thank you for bringing that up. I have just one more question for you, Anne, and our time is almost up, which makes me a little bit sad. But my last question, what tools haven't we talked about that are in your tech stack?
Google Drive. Everything is in Google Drive. We are an entirely cloud-based agency for obvious reasons. We are not all hanging out in the same building on the same server. So Google Drive, we do everything via Google Drive. And then Canva, we use Canva for our design again, because it's a cloud-based design software that we needed. All the designers are like, oh, Canva, ugh. And then I'm like, yeah, okay, great. If you can find me a better cloud-based solution, I am happy to go with your recommendation. And literally, I sent my designer. I love my designer. She's amazing. She is wonderful. She was grumpy about Canva, and I was like, fine. I was like, go look at Adobe's cloud-based options. If you think that Adobe's cloud-based options are going to meet our needs and be better for you, we will switch. I am not married to any of this, except Agorapulse. I'm obviously married to Agorapulse. And she went and she looked and she was like, so it's actually not going to meet our needs. And I was like, okay. And so we stayed. But, if my team members aren't happy with a software, I do generally try to support them. And, like if you find a better software that's going to meet our needs, by all means, let's switch. Like we're not locked into anything here. But yeah, Drive, Canva, and then the video editing is always the tricky one. Canva's come a long way in terms of what you can do with video, but it's not really an editing software yet.
No, it's not.
There's a lot you can do in terms of creating like slideshow videos, and we definitely do a lot within Canva actually for social video. But as far as real editing goes, we have a couple of different softwares. We've used Wave for a long time. We were in a different one before, and then we switched to Wave. But there's like pieces of it that we use Wave mostly now at this point for captions. And if we're editing like actual video footage where it started off as a video and we're cutting together a video and we're cutting out, the ums and this and that, all the little interstitials, we'll use Wave for that. But like we were literally just having a conversation about it earlier today, because it's like, okay, now we're going to take a 30-minute video and we need to cut it down. And there's tools that will do that, but then there's another tool that might like encompass all three of these tools. And it's, which are these tools? These are new tools. Are they good tools? We don't know. That's a tangent. But yeah, Drive and Canva are the two big tools that are in our tech stack that we have not talked about.
Yeah, I totally feel it on the video stuff. I still use iMovie on my Mac for all my video editing because it does what I need it to do.
It's fine if it's just you, but as soon as as I need to be able to get in there and review it before it's published. We can't be dealing with like downloading every single one of these files for me to review it for you, for me to give you edits to, then you go back in. I mean, we were reviewing videos today and we were editing them together in real time. And she was able to, just go in and tweak, and then I could get feedback, and, I could play it on my end to make sure, there's no weird issues. But we have to be able to work in tandem with each other around the video editing. So, Canva's come a very, very long way. We used to use Wave a lot more, and then Canva really improved their video functionality. And now we're like, we don't really do it as much. We use it for captions. So definitely use it for captions.
I do love Canva. I've been a Canva user for years. And I was recently shown by Adobe Express. Adobe showed me Express and where it's come, and it's come a long way. So they're going to be actually a big part of our agency summit in June. So for those of you listening, mark down June 20th on your calendar for our agency summit. We'll be joined by TikTok and Adobe and LinkedIn and a couple other major brands talking about their solutions and how they can help you as an agency speak to your clients more. But Express is something I want to look into a little bit more because they've got so many cool AI-based features that kind of amazing.
Yeah. The big one we're talking about right now is like getting, taking a 30-minute video and clipping it up for short social videos. That was the topic of the conversation today. It's like, what are our options for that specifically?
Yeah. Opus Clip is good for that. And for those of you listening who want other ideas, go follow my other show, the MarTech Show, because we're often bringing on brands and solutions that do exactly these kinds of things and doing deeper dives. But
yeah, Opus is what we were looking at today. So.
Yeah, they're terrific. I met them at an event I hosted in San Francisco. They were partners with us for an event for one of our VIP dinners, which I know you got to go to a couple, I think in 2023. So, Anne, you've been amazing as always. This has been such a cool and fun interview. For folks who want to learn more about you and Social Squib, where can they go to find and connect with you?
Socialsquib.com, and we are on Instagram at Social Squib. We are on the Facebook at Social Squib. Those are your best places. LinkedIn, you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Follow us on LinkedIn. Send me a message, say hi. Sometimes I lock my profile down when I get too much spam, but Um,
But we'll have the links to all of Anne's sites and everything that we mentioned today in the show notes. And don't forget to follow us on Apple, folks, the Social Pulse Podcast, Agency Edition, and leave us a review. We'd love to know what you think. Until next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Social Pulse Podcast, Agency Edition, hosted by Mike Allton and powered by AgoraPulse, the #1 rated social media management solution, which you can learn more about at agorapulse.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and be sure to leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.